Welcome staff, council, those joining us on YouTube. I'd like to welcome everyone to this special council meeting for the purpose of reviewing our 2026 budget. Before we get in, just as a note, some members of council and staff are wearing pink today, which is in recognition of Anti-Bullying Day. Also this month is the launch of the IT Starts campaign, which promotes inclusivity, respect, kindness, and so on. So you'll be hearing more of that through our social media blasts. With that said, I'd like to invite everyone to join council and staff in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you, everyone. Approval of the agenda. I have a resolution that reads that the special council meeting agenda for February 25th, 2026 be approved. Mover and seconder, Councillor Talbot and Councillor Bumstead, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Any disclosures of interest at this point? Seeing none, as we move through the agenda, should you recognize an interest, please state the general nature thereof and fill out the required paperwork with the clerk as soon as you're able to following this afternoon's meeting. That brings us to presentations and delegations. And we do have a presentation from our treasurer with respect to the 2026 draft municipal operating and capital budget. So with that said, I'll turn it over to our CAO.
Thank you, Mayor Walker, and good afternoon to members of council, and welcome to our first draft 2026 budget for capital and operating. Prior to our treasurer doing her presentation, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the senior leadership team for their hard work and dedication in preparing and bringing forward the information in the budget, and then of course Emmy for compiling that information in the format that you see in the staff report before you, as well as the PowerPoint presentation that she will be providing to council. And at this point, I would turn it over to Emmy, our treasurer, for her presentation.
Thank you. So the PowerPoint presented today is the 2026 operating and capital budget. So the outline for today, just kind of to give you an idea about where we're going and when it may end, is the taxation requirements for the 2026 budget, external factors, external budget requests and commitments, internal committees of council, items of broad budget significance, and then we get into the departmental summaries, and then finally we get to the conclusion and next steps. So 2026 budget target, which is where we'll start September 24th, 2025. The target provided by council was an overall increase to the municipal tax rate levy for 2026 on a blended basis of 4% or less. The budget being presented today has a proposed blended tax rate increase of 3.74%. The 2026 operating and capital budget balances investment in essential services and infrastructure while maintaining financial commitments of council and the community while maintaining fiscal responsibility. And I actually have in my notes to just thank the staff of Tay Township. This is a collaborative effort to put this together. I may be up here doing the bulk of this speaking, but thank you for all your efforts to compile this data. So then we'll get into the taxation requirement. The funds required from taxation for the 2026 budget are $12,768,161. For our own purposes, it's $10.7 million, and for our purposes with relating to policing, it's just over $2 million. And this increase from 2025 is $400,706 for our purposes, and for policing, it's $147,020. with a total increase of $547,000. So as far as taxation impact, what this looks like is a 4.13 increase for Tay Township for its own use purposes. A 7.03 increase in Tay Township with relating to policing, which means the total Tay Township increase is 4.59%. Blended with the Simcoe County increase of 3.5% and no increase relating to education, the blended increase is 3.74%. A 1% increase in the tax rate for Tay Township equals $120,000. $101,000 for our own purposes and $19,000 relating to policing. And this is just more of a kind of for your information. Due to blending of the tax rate, additions or removals from taxation don't have a 1% bottom line effect. For every $100,000 added to taxation for Tay Township, it increases our own purpose tax rate by 0.98%. But when you blend it out, it will increase the blended rate by 0.5%. And then conversely, every $100,000 removed from taxation decreases our own purpose tax rate by 0.98%, but it decreases the blended rate by 0.51%. So then we get into what does this mean? So the median residential detached dwelling in Tay Township has an assessed value of $220,000 per MPAC data. For 2025, their total levy was $2,690.94. The total levy for 2026 is estimated to be $2,791.58. The estimated levy increase for the median residential detached home is $100.64. And then just sort of so everybody can, has their own unique assessment. Per $100,000 of assessment, we would be looking at $45.75. And then assessment growth. Our growth has been somewhat stagnant. Also, given that we're not yet in a reassessment cycle, our growth in assessment base from 2025 to 2026 was 0.7%. This growth attributes $73,000 in levy revenue with a 0% increase in taxes. The increased taxation for growth for the 2026 budget is also been estimated at 0.7%. Is there any questions up to this point? So then we'll look at external budget factors. So the revenue from government funding is as followed. OMPF, or Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, is at $1.7 million, an increase of $153,000. Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, OCIF, has been decreased by $69,279. And it is $625,211. And then the Canada Community Benefiting Fund, Building Fund, which is our federal government support, has remained stable at $363,000. Also to note, we had a successful grant application under the Municipal Housing and Infrastructure's Health and Safety Water Stream to support the expansion of the Victoria Harbour Wastewater Treatment Plant for $29.5 million. So our overall increase in support, not including the grant, is $69,000. And this just kind of gives you an idea of what we're up against when we look at economic and inflationary factors. The green line at the bottom is our actual tax rate increase, and then the two other lines show what that tax rate increase would have to be to have the same purchasing power in the economy when you look at the CPI or the non-residential construction price index. So there is a significant gap there, and the non-residential construction price index is the top line, and that's the index that's the best comparator to the cost of projects for a municipality. Now we go into external budget requests and commitments. So this first one is council direction for follow-up from external requests. Included in this budget is a funding request from Georgian Bay General Hospital, which was received by council, as well as Georgian Bay Physician Recruitment. And these amount to $37,500. These have been included because council has provided support to these organizations in the past, and the funding level has been kept consistent with the prior funding level. Council also received numerous requests for financial support from Child and Youth Advocacy Center, Simcoe County, from the Guest House Shelter, I believe it's in Midland, and from Port Severn Honey Harbor Food Bank. As these organizations have not been provided funding in the past, they have not been included in the 2026 budget. Then just to note, should council want to include any of the above funding requests, they can give direction to me to include those options. And then also included in this budget is our financial commitment to Severn Sound Environmental Association. November 26th, council received the 2026 budget presentation from Severn Sound Environmental Association. The SSCA budget was approved by the Board of Directors on July 24th, 2025. And this included a 3% increase for Tay Township. So the full amount is an increase of $5,454, amounting to $162,000. Now we move into internal committees of council. So proposed with this budget is a bit of consistency between certain organizations or committees of council. The Seniors Advisory Committee has received $2,000 in operating funds in the past, and the Horticultural Committee has also received similar, but the Heritage Committee has received significantly more. Now, they would receive $3,600 in operating because their stipends to the committee are also paid through theirs, where the other two committees are not. So staff are proposing to kind of reduce the Heritage Committee's operating budget, excluding stipends, to be consistent with the other committees. Support for recreation committees has been maintained at prior levels of support, where these committees are expected to generate funds to support activities. And I just wanted to note that the Heritage Committee currently does hold a healthy balance of operating funds, which have been deferred, approximately $35,000, which is unspent funding from prior years, which sort of is what led us down the road to thinking maybe a reduction was warranted.
No, I was just going to go to you, Councillor Talbot.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Walker. Just with the Horticultural Committee, I know Brian's not here, so I was going to give him a ding just to check in. But I know at, our meetings, the ladies have voiced some interest if we could bump up the, our allotment to like $500. Just due to the cost of, plants and, all that kind of stuff. They really work hard, and I think they really make our township look really sweet and inviting. So I would support that, and if Brian was here, I'm sure, well, I can't speak for him, but I'm sure he would.
Thank you.
Anyway, just if council, if you can.
Thank you,
support
Councillor
that.
Talbot. Go ahead, Councillor Raymond.
Thank you. Further to that, so one of the changes coming in is that the Horticultural Committee are going to start taking back the Port McNichol beautification process that's what we're talking about. So although the youth group is stepping in to do some specific events It's actually they've increased what they're gonna be doing starting next year. So I think $500 is quite reasonable to pitch in on that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, they do such a great job.
They do. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Maybe the GM can speak to it. I always thought part of the purchases of plants and that came out of operations through the Parks and Recs.
Correct. We pay, if they need more plants, we just buy them. So it's included in our existing budget.
Anybody think that's unreasonable?
Yeah, excuse me if I may. Yeah, and Brian does support whatever additional plants that we need, and he's very wonderful at doing that. But I think, if you've noticed, they've made those wooden snowmen and the sunflower things, and it's just having the materials that they, you have to pay people to do that, obviously. And there are a number of places that those are, posted, and yeah, just for additional funds. It doesn't mean if they have the funds, they're gonna go and, go crazy shopping. They're just, it allows them maybe to look outside of what they normally do on a purchase.
Any concerns with council? So, Madam Treasurer, if that could be one of your additions, please, $500.
And is council looking at potentially increasing each of these committees for consistency between the committees' purposes, or only the horticulture?
No, I think that if the others, I think we, as you mentioned, we were approached at one time by the Heritage Committee who needed additional funding, which we did provide them for that. So I think we just deal with them individually as the need arises, if that's okay with council. Okay.
Okay, so moving on. We now have items of broad significance. So these are things like salaries and benefits and insurance that really affect more than one department within the municipality. So first we get to insurance. Simcoe County Municipalities Insurance Pool was launched July 1st, 2025. The insurance renewal for the insurance pool will be due July 1st, 2026. The premiums for July to June 2025 to 2026 was $537,000, which was the rate which was quoted to council as part of the insurance pool feasibility study. The pool elected to keep this, this rate was higher than what the insurance quotes came back in, but the pool elected to keep municipalities' contributions to what was approved by council and build the reserves quicker. So the pool will be providing an annual report after first year of operation. And the pool notified member municipalities to expect insurance renewal rates of 0.9% overall. Well, estimates relating, if you get granular, relating to real property and vehicles independently could be higher or lower. The overall increase was 0.9%. So then we get into compensation. The budget being proposed today has a compensation cost of living adjustment of 3% on all salaries, including paid on call, fire, and council. The 2026 cost of salaries funded from taxation being presented today is $7.4 million, which includes the cost of living adjustment of 3%. The remaining $360,000 in salaries is funded by self-funding departments, which are water, wastewater, and building. The total salary increase from 2025 is $462,000. And the reason we picked 3% in canvassing our comparative municipalities, the proposed increase should retain council's 50th percentile objectives. The adjustments will ensure that Tay Township remains in a competitive position as an employer of choice within the municipal comparator group and aid with long-term retention of the existing talent pool and attracting new talent where necessary. Then you can see on the slide just sort of a summary of what our comparators are doing this year and what their target percentile is. The difference in budget, overall salaries budget, if we were to look at a 2.5% increase, would be a savings of $37,000. So now we'll get into the departmental summaries. So overall, operating expenses totaled just over $12 million, which includes transfers to reserves for Tay Township purposes. The overall expenses relating to policing are just over $2 million, offset by other sources of funding. The requirement from taxation for Tay Township purposes remain at $10.7 million. Building, water, and wastewater are expected to be self-funding, where users who benefit or use the service bear the costs associated with that service, and tax dollars generated do not ordinarily support these services. So this chart does kind of show you just an outline of where the bulk of taxation dollars go to. And then this is just for comparative, if we were to add building, water, and wastewater purposes, that's kind of how much their expenses are in reference to the rest of the municipality too. So now we'll get into policing. The funds required for policing. The OPP annual billing statement was received with a calculated bill of $2.3 million. The province did issue notice that they were capping increases to 11%, so the $2,097,808 reflects that cap of 11%. We have been able to reduce the budget amount relating to the Joint Police Service Board to $25,000. The previous budget was $65,000. And this budget is proposing to use the remaining policing reserve of $35,000. So what does this mean? For, again, the median residential detached dwelling in Tay Township with an assessed value of $220,000, the increase relating to policing is $18.64, which is a 7.03% increase. And then per $100,000 of assessed residential value, it's $8.48. So now we'll get into libraries. So just some background on what's being presented today. April 2024 to January 2026, Council has reviewed numerous recommendations with regards to the current 3-branch library system. No alternative decision has been made at this time. So the library board's budget is presented as status quo with continued operation of all 3 branches. November 26, 2025, Library Board Chair and the head librarian presented the 2026 Tay Township Public Library Board budget, detailing operating and capital budget requirements. The municipal contribution contained within this budget was $593,287, which is an increase of $74,627 over the request for 2025. And then here's just kind of an outline of when you compare it to previous years. Of that $591,000, $96,000 is allocated costs. So that would be administrative salaries for people that work in this building that support the library, and allocated costs of rent, as well as salaries relating to maintenance of the facility. And the remaining $494,000 is relating to library operations. And then this is just more sort of their request comparing it to previous years. The 2025 library budget included a municipal grant of $516,660, which included allocated costs. The 2026 library board budget includes funding from the library operating reserves of $30,000, which is a decrease of $31,811 from the 2025 operating budget. The 2026 library board budget also included funding from the library's operating reserve for capital projects that amounted to $119,000, which related to improvements to the Port McNicoll branch, accessible washroom and entrance area, front door replacement, and walkway and ramp improvements. The decrease in use of operating reserves the library board proposed in 2026 was to offset the operating costs and smooth the impact of increases over future years as the operating reserve potentially depletes. Council's budget target of 4% or less would have been a municipal grant of $537,000. The difference between the requested municipal grant and council's targeted increase is $53,961. At the end of 2026, it's estimated that the library operating reserve will have $159,000. So is there any questions up till this point?
Yeah, I think, Councilor Talbot, did you want to go, or do you want me to go first, or? Okay, so with respect to this one, I'm really disappointed. And I understand some of the restraints they're under with the amount of their budget that is staff-related. First of all, are there any staff additions in their budget?
There's no staff additions per se. Their budget does have a rebudgeting of a staff position, which through successive treasurers, that position was only working 18 hours a week, whereas the board had approved that position to work 22 hours a week. So it's a rebudgeting of the full hours of that position. But other than that, there's no staffing, increase in staffing complement.
Okay. Of the total budget, of their total budget, I know you referenced it, but what amount is related to staff wages and benefits?
I can pull that out. So the library wages are $707,000. Now, obviously, they have some revenue to offset that, but their revenue, the library board's revenue, other than municipal contributions, is minimal.
So, other than staff costs, what's their total budget again, sorry?
The total municipal request that the library is asking for is $591,000.
Okay, I think I would like to see that 53,000 reduced. And whether they have to take it from reserves, I think the message needs to get out that when you look, you did the comparison, well, it's up there now, for 04, 7, 14, and we're at, what, 21 now or something, 17? We certainly can't do that as council, and I do understand the amount that is staff-related. I just wonder if they look at some of these staff-related costs in relation to how busy they are or what their setup is. The other thing is, I do know they do a lot of programming, and there are supplies provided free of charge to the program, and I'm wondering if maybe they need to take a look at a minimal fee for things like that. So with that said, I'll go to Councillor Talbot, and then I'll circulate the rest.
Thank you, Mayor Walker. Just for me, the cost of running 3 libraries has become exorbitant. We live in a small rural place. Nowhere is there 3 libraries that are almost next door to each other. Maybe in the old days, due to, the amalgamation way back when, things were fit there and they existed. But I think looking ahead, and that's part of our job, is, You know, I heard Ford look at, I think it was around Niagara or something, and he wants to do some amalgamation in the Niagara area. Why? Why? Because municipalities, small municipalities can't survive anymore. And like, we're just like that. You know, it's getting tougher and tougher, and I could see, you know, maybe not this round of the next 4 years, but maybe the next 4 years after that, you know, it's on the map. I mean, Simcoe County is on the map because they're making those decisions at county, you know, for 32 to 16. So we're on the map. So I think it would be beneficial, you know, and this is going to be coming forth anyway, but if we had one sustainable library, one sustainable, affordable library, or none, that could be the choice too, but that we could sustain and not spend $600,000 on three places that, to me, are really underused. So that's just my food for thought. I mean, you know, you're heating these places. You know, we have water, sewer. I mean, it goes endless. You got to buy books. You got to buy, and you buy. And if you had a business, it wouldn't be sustainable. So anyway, don't get me started, but I think I'm already there. But I think we all have to be cognitive of the expense of having 3 libraries. And this small Tay Township can't afford it anymore. So, okay, I'll leave it at that, but I'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Talbot, Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor Raymond, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and maybe I'll just cut in here. I agree. I support the library, always have and always will. Granted, the 14% increase is fairly significant. I know last year it was $61,000 they took out of reserves to offset that budget. I know they're playing catch-up from COVID days. I understand the staffing level and the what was it called, the circulation clerk, that had been cut back, and somehow or other the overall total had been cut, so they're playing catch up with that. I agree. The subcommittee did look at this totally. Numerous questions. The ultimate, by reducing 3 down to 1, is only a $20,000 savings at this point. Through the committee, and I mean, we will be getting into this discussion later, but there was no reduction if one library was there in staffing levels. So I think overall you're still looking at it. Looking at the budget, they do have 3 projects in there. I concur, the front door definitely needs redone. The committee had looked at when and at what point in time the other projects needed to be completed. And I think that's where we're looking at possibly 5 years out, and we could get by until then. So saying all that, the only thing I can think of doing is to more or less say to the board, reconsider 2 of the projects, the renovation on the washroom and the front entranceway. The other thing I guess I have a question for, we're contributing $32,000 to reserves. If we were, that is out of the levy?
The library board contributes to the library building reserve, but ultimately, yes.
So the question becomes, if we drop that $32,000, what would be the impact at a future for, say, next year?
Sorry, do you mean the tax impact?
Yeah. Or the levy increase. So in other words, say we do drop the transfer of reserves to the building fund this year, so it's a 0. And then we reintroduce it next year. There's no impact, is there?
No.
Okay. So that may be a consideration the board could possibly look at?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of areas there that maybe the board could relook at, and I guess all I'm getting at, the 14, it wouldn't come back in at 14 at that point.
No. No, like, ultimately, it is one of those, if we restrict, unless there is bigger picture changes to the library board's operations, whether it be the hours that they're open or how many branches we have, to restrict the library's municipal contribution is going to then, this will crop itself up again next year as an issue, unless in the meantime, something happens, some other action is taken.
Okay, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Raymond, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I was reading through this, and I was looking back when we served on the library board and looking at some of the funding that was going through back then. And we've tried so hard to accommodate residents on being open for service, even if the library itself has been running empty for hours at a time. We all talk about the dark horse and the decision that ends up having to be made. I advocate for trying to get something started sooner rather than later, realizing that this is our last year in this term, and we enter lame duck. I'm not sure if that has any effect on if we were to start working on this, but I don't see, the recommendation that we got from the library was to wait for another 4 years, and then I don't think we can. I think this is something that has to be prioritized now. And if we have an ability to at least start the wheels in motion, we've done the studies, we know, I think, what we want to do. We probably have to have a good discussion on council and say, okay, where do we want to provide, how do we want to provide library services to the residents? What is the best model to accommodate that is sustainable? We pride ourselves in trying to do everything from a sustainability perspective, and the library is not. So if we throw more money at an increase this year, next year, if we haven't done anything, it's going to be more money again. I mean, even if we cap them at last year's levels, we still run into a situation where I think it's, getting to be too much for what the residents are getting out. I value the library and what it does, but I think we have to reevaluate what a library service should be providing nowadays, especially in the electronic age. Anyway, I'm just sharing that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Raymond. Certainly, I think, we've got to move with that. Just the one point that Councillor Talbot made that with respect to potential amalgamations, and I think the thing that scares me about it is if we don't do something and we don't go to a sustainable, say, one branch system, and there is an amalgamation, certainly the system we have now would not survive that. If we have one sustainable operation, it is more likely to survive an amalgamation. The other question I have, I guess, and this doesn't help us money-wise, but I guess I reflect on the capital costs that the library board is going to incur on our buildings. So do we receive rent of some sort?
We do receive rent of some sort from them. The numbers were included in the library board presentation. The library does also, it's a bit of a shell game, but they do also commit to the library building reserve, which ultimately is council's funding. But yes, they do allocate rent, but the rent is part of the allocated costs.
Right.
That they're asking you for.
I guess I'm thinking, if I was a tenant, would I want to be responsible for capital improvements to a building?
Yeah, and I do believe that that's a bigger discussion that council needs to have with regards to the MOU for the library and what's involved with that and what should be the tenant's responsibility versus.
Okay.
Because we're looking at some of these improvements with the library board in a bit of a vacuum when we're looking at library facilities.
Right. Councillor Raymond.
Thank you. Just final question. I wanted to add on to your question about the rent. If I'm not mistaken, the rent that they pay is below market. It's not a market rent.
It is below market.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that into the mix so we understand. Thank you.
So there is some municipal contribution in that. So I think from what I'm hearing from council, unless there's any concerns, is I think rather than us making a decision, that we go back to the board and ask them to reconsider their budget requests.
Okay.
Council, does that sound reasonable? Okay. Madam Library CEO, is that good?
Yes, thank you. Understood.
Thank you. Sorry, Madam Treasurer, carry on.
That's okay. Just for clarification, so council is not making a decision regarding restricting the library's funding or municipal contribution today. That would be pending.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think we need to put a timeline on, a good point, so that we can get it back before we have to set the final budget or our next budget meeting. I'm really not, I shouldn't be jumping the gun like this, but I'm not seeing a lot of other issues with the budget. So I don't think if we have a second meeting, it's going to be a 6-hour meeting or anything. So just sort of to meet your schedule, if you can say, I need this back by a certain date.
Yep. Yeah.
That's fine. Good, counsel? Okay.
So that being
Okay.
said, the budget presentation's done. No.
Good try.
So now we get into corporate services, which encompasses information technology, communication, legislative services, financial services, administrative services, cemeteries, and council. So the budget relating to corporate services shows a 3.48% increase in salaries and benefits. This incorporates the 3% cost of living applied to all staff positions. This also incorporates a half of a legislative services summer student, which for the 2025 budget was split between fire and legislative services. So conversely, when we get to the fires section, they will have a less than 3% increase. There's no additional staffing being requested for corporate services. So there is a $6,000 increase in expenses relating to the council-approved rebranding logo initiative, which council heard late 2025. We also have a $25,000 decrease in expenses relating to preparation of the township's asset management plan. Prior budgets had it at $50,000, but now we are in more of a maintenance phase with the requirements for 2025 being met, so we have decreased that budget to $25,000. There's also small adjustments where necessary relating to hydro and other utility expenses. It's not referenced on this slide, but there is a $6,500 increase in expenses for software relating to communication software to enhance communications options for residents. The proposed software will allow for communication on a mass scale to residents via text or notification through an app, and that's an annual $6,500. And then I should say any increase in expenses has also been offset by reduction in expenses relating to moving to Simcoe County for managed IT services. So the total corporate services requirement from taxation is $2.1 million, which is a decrease in the retirement from the requirement from taxation of $16,000 from 2025. So then also we have an election. Fall marks the start of a new council term. Each of the prior year budgets have incorporated a transfer to elections reserve to smooth the impact of the costs associated with an election. The total budget for 2026 has $76,000 to run an election. $56,000 is funded from the election reserve, leaving $20,000 to be funded from taxation, consistent with prior years. The expenses associated with the election encompass casual staff wages, training, equipment rental, legal fees, advertising materials, and our voting method. So then we get into corporate services capital. So we have PC monitor replacement of $18,500, $10,000 from the municipal equipment reserve, which is consistent with prior years. We have $8,500 coming from taxation. And this is coming from taxation due to council's commitment through the adoption of the 2025 Asset Management Plan to increase the annual funding from taxation for capital asset replacement. And the increase is also due to the increase in costs of replacement computers. With the new council term, we also required to replace all of council's laptops. The estimated cost with new computers for council would be $14,000. This is a cyclical replacement, and it would be for the 2026-2032 term of council. So we also have in there financial software replacement, which is earmarked at $350,000. Our current financial software, which provides taxation, accounts payable, water billing, we've been notified that it is at end of life. The current updates and support for the software will end September 2029. Staff have gone to numerous proposals regarding software options. There are some Canadian options which look enticing, and we have received preliminary quotes where $350,000 is likely going to be the cost of this. We are also looking at, within this budget, assessing any enhancements that we can provide to the residents, such as an online portal for them to view their tax bill or access township information, as well as looking at other operational areas. The one that comes to mind could be recreation booking software, to see if a software can also replace that software. So 2029 doesn't seem that soon, but we're not the only municipality in Simcoe County that's in this position. And these software companies are now going to kind of be booked up for replacement options, which is why it's included in this budget. So now here's another follow-up item with regards to hybrid meeting options and the cost estimates for improvements to streaming of meetings for the council chambers. November 13th, 2024, item CS 2024-113 was received by council detailing hybrid meeting options and cost estimates. Council did, the recommendation contained with the report, asked council to provide direction. At that time, council directed staff to proceed with option 1, which was status quo. And part of that direction also said, due to budget pressures for 2025, staff were to bring this back during the 2026 budget process. So then this slide sort of outlines the options that were provided to council at this time. Option 1 was status quo, which was the option selected. We had option 2, which was a hybrid option that would also still require dedicated staff support in the AV room. It would be upgrades to the audio, video, and hardware system, and would give the capability for a hybrid meeting with still the need for a dedicated staff member. And then option 3 had 2 options within it. It was a hybrid option that is sort of a plug and play. It eliminates the need for a dedicated staff support, and it would be a highly automated system. And those estimates at the time were between $78,000 to $96,000. Staff have reviewed their estimates on what this system might cost a year later, because these are aged estimates. And so this slide here, as of right now, this budget does not include any funding for hybrid meetings, as the option that council wished to go with was status quo at the time. So the hybrid option with dedicated staff support is estimated to be $40,000. And then the 2 hybrid options eliminating the need for dedicated staff support, staff are estimating have increased to range between $90,000 to $125,000. And detailed on this slide just was more for council information. If we were to choose to fund any of these options from taxation partially and the municipal equipment reserve, this sort of is what the impact on the tax rate would be. So as of now, kind of the caveat at the bottom, should council wish to entertain one of these options, they can give staff direction and we can include it in the budget. Subsequent to any staff decision, a revised staff report would come forward with further details of that decision.
Okay, personally, I say we stay with status quo. I don't like the hybrid system to begin with. And we're using it at the county now, and it's a complete mess. So, questions, comments? Councillor Raymond, then Councillor Larmaw. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Norris.
Through the chair, if I could go back to the beginning of the capital, I want to talk about the cost of computers and how much we're putting out.
This one here?
Yeah, we're talking about, monitors? I don't understand why we're going through monitors so much as, my problem is that computers today are not the same as computers 5 or 10 years ago. They last a lot longer. LCD, LED monitors versus the old CRTs, they don't burn out, they don't fade. I mean, I understand, repair requirements, but I don't know that we need to be allocating as much on that. So I just want to go through this whole thing, the whole scenario, okay? When it comes down to the computers, I also struggle with going through cyclical replacement for the sake of replacing. Again, we run into situations where if you just follow the Microsoft and their end game is to keep making you buy hardware by changing the requirements in that, which you do not need to necessarily follow. I'm just suggesting that corporate services take another look at the overall, what they do with their equipment, and see if, number one, are we still funding this or purchasing these things on our own, or are we part of a potential pool that could be, like County of Simcoe, who could have much stronger buying power for stuff like this? That's my first question. Could they look into that? Is there other municipal associations that we could join where we could actually do some kind of reductions, The whole concept of having to just arbitrarily replace a computer, I think those days are gone now. We have to try and get as much as we can out of the life, recycle the ones that we do take out of service for one department, maybe in a lesser place, lesser important place from a strategy perspective, but keep it going. I see all the time now where people are just scrapping computers for nothing. Not just, medical clinics, dental clinics, I see it all. And a lot of this stuff, refurbishers buy it, they prop it up, and it's good for another 5-10 years. So if they can do it and make a profit at it, I just think that maybe we should take a look at, are we doing what we always did, or is there a defined necessity to have to roll the equipment over and over again? So that's, I would only ask that they look at that. Okay.
So I can maybe just provide a little bit of light on that. I do know that the cyclical computer replacement is somewhat new at Tay Township. Prior, it was sort of use it and fix it until it breaks. So that is, we do have the ability to leverage, now that we are with managed service at the county, to leverage their purchasing power. Whether that would be a question for IT and communications as to if that is their process right now. And then as far as getting rid of them, I do know the intent is if I need a new laptop and mine is 4 years old, it's not necessarily going to recycling. It is then used by a summer student or there as a backup for another department if need be. It's not like we're just using them for 4 years and getting rid of them.
Right, so I'll speak for myself. If I was to run, and if I was to get elected for another term, I'm very pleased to just continue using this laptop. I don't need a new one. I didn't need a new one when we ended last term. So again, it's just a question of maybe reevaluating and seeing, maybe the savings don't look large when you're talking about one individual in that, but when you add them up over an organization, it can add up pretty good. So I'm just fine tooth comb. I think we need to try and find some additional savings in there, and I'll just leave it at that. As far as the hybrid meetings are concerned, I am a supporter of the hybrid meetings, but not at this time. We have an election coming up, we have new council coming in potentially, and I think that it's a decision that should be, it's gonna have to happen sooner or later, question of when. The biggest concern with all these AI data centers, if you're following the tech news, they are eating up all the available consumer computer resources. It's getting harder to buy computer equipment. Memory and storage are, 3 large global companies have shut down now because they're only going to supply the AI community. So, I mean, it's changing and it's going to be harder. So, anyway, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Raymond. Councillor Larmour, please.
Thank you, Mayor Walker, through you. 2 things, to bounce off what Councillor Raymond was speaking about the computers. I totally agree that I don't see why we need to have cyclical replacement. Like, for instance, council, we don't have our computers on all day, every day. They're used mostly for meetings, with the exception, yeah, I would say with the exception of the mayor and the deputy mayor, use them a lot more than the rest of us, I'm sure, but we'll use them for committees. But they certainly don't have the wear and tear that you know, somebody that's using it for a full-time job. Second thing is the hybrid meetings, which I don't think I would ever support. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, it goes to stand that everybody can't be at every meeting all the time. But I don't think that it's right that if you're running for council, that you're going to go south for a couple months and then attend meetings from wherever. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay.
Oh, I know.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Larmour. Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Bumstead.
Yeah, I don't mind chirping in here, and let's get back into the computers. My understanding with council computers was this topic came up for conversation before. They were gathered, they were redistributed down to other staff. So, and then the ones that are the older are the ones that end up getting chucked. In other words, we as council always get the new stuff. Anyhow, I don't have a problem with that. Getting into hybrid, fully support hybrid. I look at the number of meetings different councilors miss. This eliminates it. It allows them, if they are away, to be engaged. I also look at it, I say we should be making a decision now instead of the next term of council, because this will allow any individual that is contemplating on running for council, if they are a full-time employee somewhere else, for them to take a full day off versus being able to go to their office, book off for an hour or 2 makes more sense to me. I find the county one working quite well. The audio, I think they've got it down. I mean, there's still some
They
bugs.
got it down pat.
It works. So anyhow, I support the hybrid. I think it'll work out good.
Okay, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Bumstead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Walker, through you. I just want to voice my concerns about hybrid meetings. I do not support them. I feel it doesn't hurt to attend personal meetings once a month. And if you want to be a council member, you should be committed to doing that. I totally disagree with hybrid meetings. We're already doing committee of the whole by Zoom meetings, which works out fine, but I really think our constituents would like to see councillors appearing in person in the council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bumstead. Just further to that on my thoughts, I've seen it at the county where the attitude of the individuals changes, whether you're in person at the council chambers or you're on a screen. Suddenly, it changes. And to me, I think you need to be there in person. As was mentioned, we do provide for a committee of the whole where you can attend from wherever. I just think the hybrid option is not for us. And I think if you're going to commit to council, you're going to commit to council, and deking away from work for an hour doesn't really do the trick. And I think if you need to accommodate a new council with respect to their work schedules and everything, then a schedule can be set up that will do that as much as possible. So, with that said, council, I guess just a show of hands with respect to status quo at this point. Councilor Raymond, did you? No. Okay, okay, that is opposed. That is carried. Thank you for that, Madam Treasurer. Carry on.
So just before we carry on, just to make sure I have all my ducks in a row, we're looking at no hybrid meetings, and is council entertaining reducing the computer replacement budget, or just looking for staff to look for efficiencies?
I'm agreeing with whatever staff wants. We discussed this in detail last time, and it was agreed to do the reciprocal. But I'm agreeable to whatever you might come back with.
Okay.
If you come back status quo, that's fine. If you come back saying you have to keep your computer for 36 years, I'm good with that as well.
All right, well, you're gonna have to keep your computer until we get to the cemetery. So, cemeteries. There are 3 active and 2 inactive cemeteries under the care and control of Tay Township. The budget being presented today with regards to cemeteries is under the assumption that cemeteries are to be self-funded. There's an increase in budget for outside services for each of the cemeteries, which has been offset by an increase in the budgeted revenue. There's no budget impact at this time on the inclusion of these cemeteries. Staff are continually assessing the cost of operating cemeteries, and as such, additional expenses with regard to taxation may have to be included in future years. So now we get into protective and development services, encompassing emergency management, fire, municipal law enforcement, building, and planning services. So first we get into emergency preparedness and disaster response, which is preparing for a centralized, controlled, and coordinated response to emergencies in the Township of Tay. So with regards to operating expenses, there is no change to the $19,645 in operating expenses for emergency preparedness. And these expenses are really relating to preparing for an emergency, not response of the actual emergency. Staff are also proposing to begin the establishment of an emergency disaster response reserve with an annual contribution of $5,000. The intent is that when that once in 100-year emergency event happens, that this reserve potentially could be held at 3% of the municipality's own purpose taxation, which is the current specifications outlined by MDRA, the province's municipal disaster recovery assistance program. And that 3% is typically what a municipality has to hit in expenses relating to response to that emergency before provincial support kicks in. So now we get into fire services. Tay Fire and Emergency Services has 3 full-time staff members and 76 dedicated paid-on-call firefighters committed to the protection of the citizens of Tay. Tay Fire and Emergency Services operates 4 fire halls that are located throughout the community. So overall, there's an increase of 1.27% to salaries and benefits. This incorporates the 3% cost of living adjustment to all staff positions as well as paid-on-call fire positions. The reason that the increase is not 3% is due to the reduction of a half a student position, which was previously shared with legislative services. So then we also have a $7,000 increase, which is related to annual software renewal fees, which would be for burn permits as well as fire department management. That is correct, right? Yeah. Then we have a $3,000 increase relating to the fire dispatch agreement, the 911 agreement. There is $1,800 increase for equipment repairs and maintenance, fire administration equipment repairs and maintenance due to aging equipment. There's small increases to fire hall related expenses relating to repairs and maintenance and utility amounts. The transfer to the capital reserve has also increased the operating expenses by $56,500, and this is to fund capital projects. So overall, the budget increase, including the funding for capital project, is $90,529 or 5.21%. Excluding the capital funding, the taxation, the increase of funding is $34,000, which is 1.96%. So then we get into fire capital. We have our annual bunker gear and ice water suit replacement at $35,900. This is consistent with prior years. So this year we have put $20,000 for auto extrication equipment. This is funded from taxation through the asset management plan and council's increased funding from taxation for capital asset replacement. This $20,000 is for one tool, with intent to keep this now consistent for the next 2 years to replace the remaining 2 tools. Tank 52 has been allocated $40,000. Similarly, the commitment to increase funding for capital asset replacement. And this is requiring an engine replacement. This was unexpected due to aging equipment. We have our personal protective equipment, PPE, decontamination equipment, which is $69,419, which was funded through a provincial grant. This equipment's used to decontaminate, wash and dry soft and hard PPE. As in the fire master plan, we have now Station 1 addition renovation plans earmarked for $80,000 to be funded from the tax rate stabilization reserve. Development of kind of initial plans are so that council can review and staff can be ready should funding opportunities become available. So additionally, we have an off-road vehicle for $100,000. This off-road vehicle was included as part of our development charge background study. So $45,000 of this is funded through development charges. The remaining $55,000 is funded from the future capital reserve. So this was outlined as a priority in the fire master plan and the community risk assessment. This assists fire and emergency services to respond to remote locations which are not serviced by traditional roadways. This also gives the fire department to the ability to respond to emergency situations during significant weather events or disasters, which might be unreachable. So a good example of this would be the ice storm, and if roads become unpassable with trees, fire can still get there. So this funding request does also include off-road track kit, a trailer for transportation around the municipality as necessary, a skid unit with water and pump for firefighting, and patient transport capabilities. So is there any questions on this?
Councilor Raymond, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to revisit this. I remember we had conversations about it, but, so we're gonna store it at a central location, if I'm not mistaken, and then it'll be dispatched as needed throughout the township?
That is correct.
And if our roads are closed because of some bad situation, will they still be able to go out beyond? So let's say to the rural area, they'll still be able to get in
So yes, through the chair, yes, it could respond right from the facility.
from the facility, okay? Do you ever foresee us needing a second?
No. I've spoken to other municipalities in the area, and they all only operate one.
And it works, okay. Thank you, Your Worship, that was it.
Thanks, Councilor Raymond. Councilor Talbot, please.
Whoops, thank you through the chair. Just a question, Sean. With an Argo can go in the water, right?
That is, sorry, through the chair. That is correct. An Argo is amphibious. When it's in
Right.
the water, it's
So
rather slow.
why wouldn't we look at something like that too?
So Penetang Fire has an Argo.
Oh,
and
okay.
They would like not to have an Argo.
Oh.
Because
Okay.
what they've found over time is it just didn't meet what they wanted. So everybody else, I've spoken to the municipalities around us, all use a UTV or a side-by-side. And that seems to work well for everybody in the area.
I just thought, if that had been, checked
10 years
out.
ago, that was the thought until Penetang had one
Yeah.
and then used it, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your response.
Thank you, Councilor Talbot. Carry on, Madam Treasurer.
Okay, so next we get to municipal law enforcement. Responsible for enforcement of the township's bylaws to ensure safe, quiet, and enjoyable community for all residents, while enforcing the bylaws equitably and applying the level of enforcement that best fits the type of municipal bylaw violation and the circumstances surrounding it. So with the operating budget for municipal law enforcement, there is a 13.14% increase in salary and benefits. This incorporates a 3% increase to all staff positions. And this also incorporates a replacement of a 60% full-time equivalent operational services administrative support position to create a full-time one-year contract administrative support position that's shared between municipal law enforcement and operational services. So this position is really only just adding the remaining 0.4 of a contract position for this budget, and that remaining 0.4% is going to be billed under the municipal law enforcement budget, so there is no increase in operational services with regards to this position. So we have a $5,000 estimated increase in the animal control contract. So in here, we've also incorporated a $5,500 one-time increase for the purchase of dog licensing software. This would provide a service enhancement for residents, allowing the purchase of dog licenses online or by telephone. This service also provides a national pet registry with pet owners creating a profile for their pet, including pictures and identifiable information, which can aid municipal enforcement officers would have access to those profiles, which can aid in search and identification efforts for missing and found pets. This system does also allow for cross-posting, so if a resident has created a profile with a picture, it can cross-post to our existing communications channels. The dog tags are enabled with unique coding, where if a dog is found regardless of the time of day, the agency is contacted and they can facilitate reunification of the lost pet with the owner without staff intervention. Many municipalities in Simcoe County are already participating in this program with positive reviews. After the initial setup, the only ongoing fee is relating to the sending out of reminder notices, which we already do, so that the ongoing fee around this would be negligible. So equipment, materials and vehicle have remained constant with the prior year's estimates, with small increases in repairs and maintenance, which is expected as the fleet ages. Overall requirement from taxation is an increase of $42,665 or 12.62%. So then we get into municipal law enforcement capital. There are no proposed new capital projects for 2026. The current in-fleet 2025 vehicle, which is used by municipal law enforcement, was slated for age-based replacement in 2026. In consultation with operational services who oversees fleet, the decision was made to defer this replacement as the vehicle is still in good operational condition, and the municipal law enforcement vehicle replacement reserve was depleted for a vehicle purchase in 2025. So that's all for municipal law enforcement, if there's any questions.
Any questions, council? Not seeing any, Madam Treasurer?
So then we'll move on to building services. So ensuring the buildings within Tay Township are erected in accordance with Ontario's building code, the township's building bylaw, and any other applicable laws as required at the time of building permit submission. So the building services operating. Building services is expected to be self-funding, where users who benefit or use the service bear the costs associated with that service, and tax dollars generated do not ordinarily support these services. So building services is seeing a 22.68% increase in salaries and benefits. This is incorporating a 3% increase to all staff positions, and this is also adding a 7-month contract role on a one-time basis to assist with mentoring the existing building staff working towards certification. There's $5,500 decrease in outside services, which was increased in 2025 to aid in review on complex structure building permit applications. And there's been a $1,000 increase in seminars and courses as staff work towards certification levels for higher approvals. $40,000 of the $60,000 overall budget approved by council for a building and planning fee review is included in this budget as well. Continued analysis of corporate services expenses will happen by staff during the year to ensure that the related building expenses and overhead are allocated correctly. So the total expenses to be funded from building department revenue amount to $496,370, which is an increase of $101,000, a 25.82% increase. And then building services capital, there are no new proposed capital projects. So that's all for building services. Is there any questions before we move on?
Councilor Raymond, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can we go back a slide, please?
Yep.
I'm trying to understand 22.68 increase in salaries and benefits. So the 3 COL, I get that. Addition of 7-month contract role. So this is one role.
Yeah, I will defer to the GM.
Thank you, through the chair. So when the position was posted for the building inspector, the applicants that came in didn't really meet, no matter our standard at the time, what we had put out for. So the plan was in place to hire from within, and in order to do so and keep mentoring and training the individual and customer service levels, we've added a contract position. They were here through the fall of last year, off through the winter, through the slower season, in through the summer to keep the levels up and allow us to train our new person, and then they're going to go away. So this isn't something to continue on afterwards. This is just a 7-month contract.
Okay, so my question is though, for the 7-month contract role, this is a bit of a specialized position, just so I can clarify, it's not a clerical position?
No, it is. It happens to be an ex-CBO. It wasn't that we're looking for one. It just happens we have an ex-CBO, so that person has all their certificates, so that they can mentor both people through their process as they work towards certifications. Our CBO is one certification short of having all the certifications.
Will his mentor's CBO certification allow him to perform CBO duties if required?
That is correct. And that's why you're seeing the decrease of $5,500. We don't have to go out to a consultant anymore because he has his Part 3, which is complex and large buildings.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's great. I just wanted to clarify, make sure I understood. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councilor Raymond. I'm not seeing any other questions at this time. And perhaps what we could do, Madam Treasurer, we've got building, planning, and then maybe we will take a bio break before
So
we
did
get...
you want to finish up planning and then before we get into operational services?
Before we get into roads.
Okay. So, enacting municipal council's policies on how land is used in our community and should be used, ensuring future planning and development will meet the specific needs of the community, while identifying and regulating the specific development criteria on each specific property within the municipality, planning and development. So planning and development has a 2.4% increase in salaries and benefits. This is incorporating the 3% cost of living, and that's it. There's a 0.25% increase in planning administrative expenses relating to budgeted costs associated with PPE for the departmental staff when they go out to site. Committee of Adjustment, revenue and expenses are budgeted the same as 2025. This has the inclusion of $20,000 of the overall $60,000 building and planning fee review, which was approved by council in 2025 for inclusion in this budget. So overall, it's an increase of 33,427 or 6.69% increase funding from taxation. And there is no proposed capital projects for planning and development. So then, if
Okay, thanks, Madam Treasurer. Any questions to this point? Maybe we could take a quick break until, say, 4:30, and we will reconvene at that time and hit the operational services roads. Thanks, everybody. Okay, welcome back, council and staff, and those joining us on YouTube. We will continue with our budget deliberations. And at this point, we're on operational services, roads administration, and I'll turn it back to our treasurer, Madam Treasurer.
Thank you. So this section of the budget covers operational services, which is responsible for the maintenance and delivery of core municipal infrastructure and services in Tay Township. This includes roads, sidewalks, water, wastewater systems, along with our partners, Ontario Clean Water Agency, stormwater management, fleet maintenance, parks, and public spaces. The functional areas within this are roads, parks, recreation, facilities, and engineering. So with operational services, I just wanted to highlight a few broad budget implications. So the operational services department is responsible for maintenance and delivery of core municipal infrastructure and services in Tay Township, which includes what was previously stated. So staff employed in this department may be deployed to any functional area that's under the responsibility of operational services. But staff time is allocated on a percentage or by position basis. Therefore, just as we're moving through Parks and Rec and roads, the salary and benefit amounts under each functional area may not align with what you're thinking the actual time spent undertaking activities for that functional area may be. So overall, the 2026 budget includes overall salary increases when we look at all of operational services of 6.61%, which includes water, wastewater salary allocations, which are self-funding areas. There's no change in budgeted salaries due to the expansion of the administrative support contract position to be shared with municipal law enforcement. So then we get into the functional area of parks, recreation, and facilities. This functional area is responsible for recreation programming, parks, public spaces, and facility maintenance and improvements. So when we look at their operating budget, overall, Parks, Rec, and Facilities has a 7.14% increase in salaries and benefits. This incorporates a 3% increase of cost of living. This also incorporates the student pay grid increases, which through HR canvassed our comparators and made sure that we're in alignment for competitiveness with our comparator municipalities. It does have the addition of one summer operational services student. Previously, that student did work for the day camp. And now they've found that there is a need for that student for the full summer. And we have also increased the contract length of Tay Rink attendance from 17 weeks to 18 weeks. And the overall increase in funding required from taxation is $58,494, which is 2.17%. So recreation, which includes day camp, recreation programming, and recreation administration. There is a $2,100 increase in recreation administrative expenses relating to the cost of software, membership, bank service charge for online payments for recreational programming. There is $5,650 increase in day camp expenses related to increasing costs for busing, for day trips and supplies and materials. Overall, there's a $7,338 increase in funding requested from taxation to support recreation programming. So just a little bit of clarification in your schedules that you received with this report, you may notice that recreation appears to have a far larger increase. That report is kind of set up with the FIR purposes in mind, where the library increase is also included in that rec portion for that report. So that's why it may look larger than it is.
Councilor Talbot, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just wondering, Emmy, with day camp, I've always wondered this, my kids went there, but that was so long ago. With costing, how much does it cost to put a child in day camp? Do you know? And I guess my other question, like, so does that cover like the costs of, you know, of the staffing and, you know, like, is there, does it does it cover the costs of all the staff, of the bus trips, right?
Yeah, so currently it doesn't 100% cover it.
Okay,
We are working with Mackenzie and decreasing the cost of our busing and whatnot, because the busing costs have gone up quite a bit.
Right.
To make it so that it's either revenue neutral or self-funding.
because that
that's
would
our
make
intention.
sense,
Yep.
right? And that's what I was thinking, like, why should we, I mean, we can do the day camps, but, I mean, why should it cost the township more to,
Yeah,
right?
and we're also looking at increasing from 170 to 190 this year, so.
Okay.
Between a revenue increase with the rate and decrease in costs, we're hoping to make it revenue neutral.
Okay, cool, thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Councillor Talbot. Madam Treasurer.
Okay, so, just wanted to make sure I hadn't skipped ahead. So now we're looking at, where before we were looking at recreation, now we're looking at Parks Administration. There's $1,880 increase in expenses relating to insurance costs. Where I spoke about earlier, the actual rate for real property insurance increased, which was offset by decreases in the auto portion or the vehicle portion. So that increase is relating to insurance costs for real property, hydro, and telecommunications. Other parks maintenance-related expenses have remained stable or have slightly increased, attributed to the cost of utilities. There is a savings under Parks Administrations of $10,712 relating to vehicles and equipment. And this is kind of where that insurance piece comes along the other way. So then we move on to TARINC. There's $9,350 increase in TARINC expenses that is relating to the increase in hydro, telephone, and building repairs and maintenance. The overall increase in funding to support TARINC is $1,193 when we take into account the revenue of rink rentals. So then we move on to Parks, Recreation, and Facilities Capital. So operational services have identified 3 new capital projects. One is the Wabashing Library Emergency Exit and Walkway of $35,030. This is to be funded from the Municipal Building Reserve. As this was not identified by the Library Board as a library capital budget, but is required for accessible compliance, operational services also said this is an essential upgrade for safety, regardless of continued operation as a library, or if the facility is to be retained for other municipal use down the road. And we also have $10,000 for the Victoria Harbour Library Emergency Exit, which is a similar situation funded from the Municipal Building Reserve, as it wasn't identified as part of the library capital budget. Then in addition, we have Oakwood Community Center roof repairs for $80,000 funded from the Future Capital Reserve. This is included in the budget package as an addition, as staff felt that it could be done in conjunction with the Oakwood front entrance work, which is a carry forward item. So that's everything for Parks, Recreation, and Facilities. Any questions?
Councillor Raymond, please, and then we're going to go to Councillor Talbot, and then...
Thank you, through the chair. No, I just had the question about the Oakville Community Center roof repair. I know that we did, it had leaked for a while, and then we had done some repairs. Is this an ongoing, or is this one thing that we're going to be doing, and then we don't have to worry about it for 5-10 years?
Yeah, I don't think the leaks have ever stopped.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure.
So we are removing the cedar shingles and going with a metal roof.
Oh, okay, so it's a...
Well, over top, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a full roof replacement, but it is going to metal instead of the cedar.
The cedar stuff, it looks nice, but, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Raymond. Councillor Talbot, please.
Thank you, through the chair. That's where I was going with that question too, because I guess I never really looked up at, the coverage up there, but, yeah, it's, it sounds like a great idea. As most our buildings do have steel roofs, right?
Just a question on the Port Nicoll Community Center. I had a resident mention that they've been going there quite a few times now for some of the programs, and he said that there doesn't seem to be a coat hanger in the main hall. Is it out back in the other room, or?
That's a good question. There's usually once in the entranceway. I'll have a look.
Yeah, take a look. He just mentioned it to me, and
Yep.
I was over there last week, and I never noticed, so.
Yep, we'll have a look.
There isn't one? No. Okay, nothing else then? Carry on.
Okay, so now we're into, under operational services, another functional area of roads and fleet. This includes road, sidewalks, and infrastructure improvements, maintenance, stormwater management, and maintenance of repairs of the full municipal fleet. So under operating, roads administration has seen a 3.64 increase in salaries and benefits. This incorporates again the 3% cost of living adjustment applied to all staff position. In 2025, there was difficulty recruiting an appropriate candidate for a vacant operator laborer 2 positions. Management made that a decision at the time to fill this position with 2 operator laborer 1 positions, as it better reflect the operational needs. So then those changes of the 1 operator laborer 2 position to 2 operator laborer 1 positions have been reflected in this budget. On further review of the salary budget, it was determined that our engineering technologist's salary, which was fully allocated to roads and fleet, a portion of that salary should be allocated to water and wastewater, as that position does serve a functional purpose for the water wastewater department, especially when it comes to grant writing and capital projects administration. So that's why that salary is now allocated partially toward water wastewater. There is a $5,000 increase in waste and waste disposal relating to the increased cost for garbage collection, as well as just to highlight for council, $3,500 of that $5,000 in additional cost is relating to the costs associated for recycling collection. There have been nominal hydro and utility increases, which are based either on the historic actual that we've had over the past year or CPI where necessary. Overall, the increase for roads administration is $70,471, or 3.57% for roads administration. So then we get into fleet administration. So salaries are budgeted under roads administration. We have reallocated some expenses, for example, software to fleet administration, which conversely there was a reduction in other areas. There is a $7,000 increase in expenses relating to heavy service vehicles due to estimated fuel costs and repairs and maintenance, offset by a reduction in the per vehicle amount for insurance. There's been $543 decrease in expenses relating to medium service vehicles due to fuel costs and repair estimates, which again are offset by reductions in the per vehicle amount for insurance. There's been a $26,530 decrease in expenses relating to light service vehicles due to a decrease in the anticipated repairs and maintenance costs. Maintaining fuel costs and any increase that was under this funding line has been offset by insurance reductions, as well as no longer having to pay license fees for many of the light duty vehicles. So overall, when it comes to fleet and fleet administration, there's an overall decrease of $2,325, or 0.31%, though some expenses have been reallocated to roads operating. So then we move into roads operations. So this is sort of the jobs. So there's been a $10,000 increase to facilitate spoke testing for looking for infiltration of the storm sewer system. There's a $5,000 increase in roadside maintenance due to estimated increases in material costs. Bridges and culverts, sidewalks, streetlights, and hardtop maintenance budgets are consistent with 2025. There's been a reduction in loose top maintenance of $84,000. Now, the way our funding formula works for our road program, any reduction in this funding is increasing the roads capital program. There's a $102,000 increase in winter maintenance estimates, which brings the total estimate to $272,600. We have a 2-year tender for salt and sand, which is expiring this year, and staff are estimating increases in the costs relating to salt and sand. This also, winter maintenance had some items which were previously billed under fleet, such as blades put here. And then also the intent with staff, and it might look a little bit confusing it with a $100 item in the budget, and you're wondering if this is correct. So the intent is that any under actual spending of this $272,000 would create an establishment of a significant weather event reserve. So knowing that it's always going to cost the taxpayer this much to fund winter maintenance, but should we have a light snow year, the underspending would be put in a significant weather event reserve, which could be tapped into through a council report by operational services to offset potentially heavy, extended, prolonged snowfall years where more we could potentially be over budget on winter maintenance. So that's sort of the intent with that. So overall, the increase is $188,000 or 8.51% for roads operation. So then when we look at the overall increase for all roads related functional areas, so that's your roads administration, your fleet administration, and your roads operations, it's $256,986, which equates to a 5.21% increase for all of the functional areas. So then we move into roads and fleet capital. So the 2026 roads program is $2.2 million, which $1.1 million is being funded from taxation, which is an increase of $152,550. We have our Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund being allocated to the 2026 roads program. Also, we always use a portion of development charges, $105,000. And then we also have the Canada Community Building Fund of $363,000. And then the tentative projects are subject to change based on assessment and review and needs from the operational services staff. So we have a couple equipment replacements. We have one, it's TR 2691, which is a replacement of TR 1609, a heavy-duty truck for $125,000, which is to be funded from the municipal fleet reserve, and it's necessary due to age and condition. We have a TR 2692, a tractor with the plow and blower, which is a replacement of TR 0834 in the amount of $75,000. This is being replaced for condition and age, and it's replacing our current trackless. We have Ron Jones Ellipse Culvert Rehab for $85,000 to be funded from the Infrastructure Bridge Reserve. This replacement is necessary for condition and age. We have $20,000 again for our street lighting program, which is an annual budgeted amount. Then we have a guide rail replacement for $30,000 to be funded from the Municipal Equipment Reserve operations. This replacement is necessary for condition and damage. Then we move into some carry forward items. So we have Trail Bridge 1, TB001, Tayshore Trail south of Highway 12, budgeted for $900,000. This is in addition to the previously budgeted amount, which brings the total, the project total budget to $1.1 million. Staff are proposing to fund this through debt, as we have to apply for debt financing relating to a 2025 project for Rosemont Bridge. We thought we would combine the two remaining bridges to get 3 bridges for one debt financing. So we have Trail Bridge 3, TB003, which is Tayshore Trail north of Highway 12 for $100,000. It's in addition to the previous budgeted amount. The project total budget is $165,000. And then we have a wood chipper replacement. The budget request for 2026 is $40,000. In 2025, we included $25,000 allocated to refurbish our existing wood chipper. Refurbishment was determined not to be the most prudent use of the resources given. That's why we're asking for an additional $40,000, which would be funded from taxation, to help reach council's commitment to increase funding from taxation for capital assets. So the total amount for this replacement would be $65,000. So that's it for operational services, if there's any questions.
Council, Councilor Bumstead, please.
I'm just wondering about that Ron Jones Eclipse culvert. What is that?
It's just the culvert under the road, the cross culvert under the road.
Wasn't it $80,000?
Yeah,
One culvert?
yeah.
How big is the said culvert?
It's a big culvert,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Not seeing anything further?
Okay, now we'll move to water. So approximately 57% of Tay Township households are serviced by the Tay Township water systems, managed by Operational Services Department alongside our partners at the Ontario Clean Water Agency. So water operating has seen a 26.88% increase in salaries and benefits, equating to $29,226. This incorporates 3% applied to all staff positions and allocation of 25% of the engineering technologist position, as this position provides extensive support for capital projects, including grant writing within this functional area. So these salaries are truly administrative salaries. When it comes to allocation, obviously Aqua took over, so these salary numbers are not relating to actual operating of the water system. So we have an expected increase of 2% to the Ontario Clean Water Agency contract. Also to note that this contract is up for renewal in November 2026. There is $20,246 increase relating to Tay Area Water Treatment Plant, attributed to increases in hydro and other utility costs. There are no notable increases in other budgeted expenses other than small rate adjustments for the remaining utilities and fuel costs. After operational expenses, it is anticipated there will be a transfer to the Water Capital Reserve of $1.2 million. And then when we get to water capital, we have the 2026 water main replacements slated for $750,000. This is the replacement of the water main at Jepson Street from Queen Street to Park Street, Pine Street, and Hayes Street. Low lift building chlorine pump for $100,000. Annual hydrant replacement, where we replace 4 to 5 hydrants per year within the funding of $35,000. We have contingency equipment replacement of $40,000. This is an annually budgeted amount. I believe per our Aqua contract, we're required to have this in here. We have the rope membrane replacement of $30,000. Then we also have the residential water metering project for $2.8 million. This project's moving forward based on the 3 phase approach contained in item OS 2026-004 that was received by council February 11th, 2026. So that's it for water. Is there any questions before we move to wastewater?
Any questions? Not seeing any?
Okay, so wastewater. Approximately 40% of Tay Township households are serviced by the Tay Township wastewater systems. So then, similar to water salaries, 28.77% increase in salaries and benefits, which equates to $30,827. This is a 3% cost of living applied to staff positions and allocation of 25% of the engineering technologist position. Again, we have a 2% increase in the Aqua contract, and it is up for renewal November 2026. There is $50,000 increase related to environmental master servicing study, a $30,000 increase relating to Victoria Harbor collection system repairs and maintenance. There have been other small adjustments for hydro and other utilities as well as fuel. After operating expenses, it's anticipated there will be a transfer of $791,000 to the wastewater capital reserve. So then we move to wastewater capital. So it has Victoria Harbor pump rebuilds slated for $50,000. Port McNichol wastewater treatment plant blower rebuilds, also $50,000. Port McNichol wastewater treatment plant PLC upgrades for $150,000. Sanitary system smoke testing for $50,000. And then we have a contingency equipment replacement for $50,000. So then the big item is Victoria Harbor wastewater treatment plant expansion. It's for $50.8 million. It's been funded by various methods throughout the years. But then we did receive our grant under our municipal housing and infrastructure, health and safety water systems grant in the amount of $29 million. So the revised amount from all of the previous budgeted amounts is $18.4 million. Council will receive a follow-up report from operational services with more details regarding this project. And I just wanted to provide council with a cumulative kind of all of these numbers are a lot. So altogether, there's been $2.8 million of OCIF funding, $1.8 million of cumulative debt financing, $54,000 from the wastewater capital reserve, and the remaining $29.5 million in the form of a provincial grant. So any questions about wastewater?
Questions? Not seeing any.
We're almost there. So, reserve projections. So, reserves are a savings mechanism which council uses to smooth operating and capital expenses and plan for the future funding needs. So, overall, the budget that's being presented today has $1,536,000 transfers to reserves from tax-supported areas. This is an increase of $46,586 from 2025. Also to note, this is including the establishment of an emergency disaster response reserve for future emergency response and the establishment of a significant weather event reserve for future use by operational services. Then we have $791,445 to the wastewater capital reserve. And we have $1,261,636 to the water capital reserve. So then we're on to the conclusion and next steps. This is where I'll just summarize everything. We'll kind of bring it full circle. So, summary, the budget that's being presented today shows a 4.13% increase for Tay Township, and a 7.03% increase relating to policing. The total Tay Township tax increase is 4.59%. With Simcoe County's 3.5% increase, the blended increase is 3.74%. a 1% increase in Tay Township equals $120,000, which, with a portion of that being relating to our own purposes and some relating to policing. Then just to highlight again, due to blending, every $100,000 removed from the budget decreases our tax rate by 0.98, but only decreases the blended rate by 0.51. In order to decrease the blended rate by 1%, it would mean $194,000 in removed items from the budget. And so what does that mean? Again, so the estimated annual levy increase would be $100.64. So then I have just sort of some options for council directions based on how they're feeling about this budget, which I'm gathering it's not going to be option one. But option one is to approve the 2026 operating capital budget as presented, directing staff to bring back the appropriate tax rate bylaw, or if council wishes to propose amendments, it would lead to the following options. If they're comfortable with the amendments and the amendments are concrete enough, they can approve the budget as amended, directing staff to bring back a tax rate bylaw based on the amended budget. Or council can direct staff to bring back an amended 2026 operating capital budget outlining the amendments requested to a future meeting. So that's all from me if there's any further questions.
Okay, thanks, Emmy. Great job by staff on the budget. I do have one question. Can we get a copy of your presentation?
You bet. Yes.
Yeah, it summarizes things really well. Council, any questions? Councilor Raymond.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think in seeing that we're going to be requesting the libraries to resubmit, I think option 3 is automatically what we're going to be going for.
Yeah, what I've suggested for the wording is first paragraph, that item be received, and that the OCIF grant be used, and then that staff investigate and report back on items deferred for further considerations.
That works.
Does that work, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. I had drafted something that's a little bit more detailed.
Okay.
If you wanted me to read it and
Sure.
you can consider it.
Probably won't be as good as mine, but go ahead.
So I have that item CS 2026-017 regarding the 2026 operating capital budget be received, and that the 2026 OCIF grant in the amount of $625,221,000 be used to fund the 2026 capital roads program, and that the 2026 operating and capital budget be amended as follows. Increase the horticulture committee budget by $500 to $2,500. And that council requests that the library board reconsider their 2026 budget and return to council with a reduced request. And that staff be directed to review the PC monitor replacement and council computer replacement schedule to consider additional efficiencies. And that staff be directed to bring back a second draft presentation of the 2026 operating and capital budget for council consideration at the March council meeting.
Okay, it was better than mine. Mover and seconder on that, Councillor Raymond and Councillor Lerma. All in favor? That is carried. So very good exercise, council, some good questions and some good responses from staff. So that brings us to delegation follow-up, which we don't have any. And bylaw is our confirmation bylaw. And I have a motion that reads that bylaw 2026-06, being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of the February 25th, 2026 special council meeting be enacted as a bylaw of the Township of Tay. Mover, Councillor Raymond, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Norris. All in favor? That is carried. Adjournment, unless there's any other items from council. Not seeing any. That resolution that reads that this meeting of council adjourn at 5:06 p.m. Moved by Councillor Talbot and seconded by Counselor Larmour. All in favor? That is carried. We are adjourned.